Hey Rock Buds, Papa, wishing you the best. Today we're going to talk about the Cumberland Plateau, topographic and geologic province, and the Big South Fork National River Recreation Area run by the National Park Service. We're going to learn all about the geology of these places and find out how all this stuff came into being. So stay tuned and please subscribe if you like this video and think it's good. Thank you to all of my subscribers. Here we go. Big South Fork National River Recreation Area is run by the National Park Service, and it covers over 100,000 acres in northern Tennessee and southern Kentucky. This map shows where the Big South Fork National River Recreation Area is located in northern Tennessee. The park preserves the Big South Fork of the Cumberland River. It has many miles of hiking trails, and it also interprets the history of coal mining in the area. Big South Fork is located on the Cumberland Plateau, and the Cumberland Plateau is shown on this map between the two red lines. The Cumberland Plateau extends from Alabama all the way up at least through Pennsylvania. Those darker green lines to the right or east of the Cumberland Plateau are the Valley and Ridge Province. To the west of the Cumberland Plateau is the eastern highland rim, where the land falls off into a large basin called the Nashville Basin. On its east side, the Cumberland Plateau juts up out of the Valley and Ridge Province in a sandstone escarpment. The Cumberland Plateau is made of a huge pile of Pennsylvanian period sandstone and conglomerate that sits on top of another huge hunk of Mississippian period limestone. Up on the sandstone top, there are coal beds in many areas. And here are some delightful pictures of the Big South Fork area for your viewing enjoyment. Big South Fork of the Cumberland River and the morning sunshine. Isn't it gorgeous? Let's go find some rocks. Now this is truly Cumberland Plateau rock, and this is the main rock of Big South Fork. It's called the Rock Castle Conglomerate, and you can see it is a conglomerate. A conglomerate is a rock that has a matrix of clay turned into shell, probably with hunks of well-rounded quartz and other feldspar and maybe even granite in it. And it tells us that once a river flowed where this rock was formed long ago, as the Alleghanian Mountains eroded into the Foreland Basin. Here's another very common rock at Big South Fork, sandstone. Sandstone's made of quartz grains or sand grains that are all about the same size, mashed together. It's a sedimentary rock. At Big South Fork, I think the glue that holds the sand grains together is mostly iron, and you can see that by the reddish and brownish and even yellowish colors. A lot of these little black rocks Nice and smooth around everywhere. Since we're in the Cumberland Plateau of northern Tennessee, what do you think these are? They're pretty lightweight. If you guessed coal, you guessed right. Washed out of the coal seams of the Cumberland Plateau, brought down here to the Big South Fork River and rolled, tumbled, and smoothed, and then thrown up on the beach here. And this coal was made during the Pennsylvanian and Permian time, probably about 330 million years ago to about maybe 250 million years ago, plus or minus. This rock, I dripped some hydrochloric acid on it, and lo and behold, it's fizzing. So what kind of rock is it? Limestone, right. Here's a darker gray rock. Let's test it with acid. Yep. Oops, where is it? Fizz. That's more limestone. And let's check this guy out. Yeah, look at that. So there's a lot of limestone here. Okay, rock buds, we're here on the South Fork of the Cumberland River, actually the Big South Fork of the Cumberland River, and we've been finding river conglomerate rock here. We've been finding sandstone, we've been finding limestone, and we've been finding coal. So let's talk about how all these rocks got here on the Cumberland Plateau. Well, that's the first thing. We're on the Cumberland Plateau, also called the Allegheny Plateau and the Appalachian Plateau, depending on where you are along its length. And it is a escarpment of mostly sandstone from the Pennsylvanian time that forms Cumberland Gap National Park is in it. Big Stone Gap in Virginia, the former home of John Fox Jr. And it goes all the way up, at least through Pennsylvania, I'm pretty sure. So let's talk about the limestone that we found first. The limestone was laid down during Mississippian time. It was lime-rich mud that was deposited in the Alleghenian orogeny foreland basin. In other words, that's when Africa crashed about 300 million years ago. Africa pushed down on the North American continent, and ocean flooded in, shallow ocean, and it was clear and warm because North America was pretty close to the equator, right on the equator at that time. And so all kind of shell creatures, coral reefs, etc. formed in this massive shallow ocean that went all the way from the east coast to about the Mississippi River, maybe a little further. And that turned into limestone, Mississippian time limestone. Then as Africa and the Alleghenian mountains began to erode, they began to deposit massive amounts of sandstone into the streams that brought all that sandstone down, and it covered up most of the limestone. This was during Pennsylvanian and Permian time. The limestone represented sandy coastal plain deposits, beach deposits, barrier island deposits, and they just overwhelmed the foreland basin, filling it up with sand. And then also at that time, these massive rivers that were bringing all this sand down also brought rock fragments down from pea-size to maybe, I don't know, Volkswagen size. These are, no, not Volkswagen size. Peas from pea-size to orange size, and rolled them and tumbled them in the rivers, and they fell down to the bottom of the rivers, forming a river conglomerate. And that's where our rock castle conglomerate, which is the major rock type, formed. And then on top of the rock castle conglomerate, and along with it also there were these massive coal swamps. These were fern trees and other interesting trees of the Pennsylvanian period time, and occasionally the ocean would flood up and cover these forests, killing them and laying down a layer of organic material. And sometimes as the Allegheny Mountains eroded, big masses of sandstone and river conglomerate would come down and cover up these river swamps. Whichever of those happened, and that happened over and over again. Those are called cyclotherms when it happens over and over again. The glaciers formed, the sea went down, the river swamps, coal swamps formed, the glaciers melted, the oceans came back up, covered the swamps, that sort of thing over and over. And that's where the coal came from. Layer upon layer pushing down on the organic material that was in these swamps, pressed them into coal. Hey Rock Buds, as we drove up out of the riverbed of the Big South Fork River, we came upon some beautiful cliffs of the Rock Castle Formation, and so let's look at some of those. Great shot of the Rock Castle Conglomerate. Up there at the top you can see a couple of things. You can see these pits in the rock, probably where blobs of iron or that eroded out were, and you can see crossbeds up there too, perhaps, which form in sand and river. And this looks like crossbeds kind of down in here too. And these the sand was moving, or the river was moving to the left. And Rock Buds, as you likely know, crossbeds are the side view or cross-section view of ripple marks. And you find ripple marks in fast-flowing streams and in beach areas, tidal zones, and also on desert sand dunes where the wind's blowing the sand. In this moving shot, kind of shaky, sorry, you can see right here massive beds of sandstone. But in a minute, we're going to go to thinner bedding of sandstone. The massive bedding likely represents a huge storm event where a great pile of sand was blown into a section, perhaps filling up a riverbed completely and pushing the water out, maybe where a massive storm very quickly piled up beach dunes. The thin beds likely represent fluctuation in the depositional regime. Maybe the ocean came up depositing thin layers of mud on top of the sand and then went back down, and the beach sands prevailed again, something like that. Another good shot of the erosion pits and also of crossbeds, river flowing to the left. In many places, the Rock Castle Conglomerate has a reddish or brownish tinge, and that's due to the high iron that's in it. Rock Buds, one of the cool things about the Cumberland Plateau is that on top you have this fairly sterile sandstone layer, very thick, and so the plants that grow there are plants that can stand dry, nutrient-poor soils like sand hickory and also American holly. But where the streams have cut down deep, you get into the limestone layer. Limestone's full of calcium, and you have a lot of calcium-loving plants like sugar maple, pawpaw, and eastern redbud. Bad hair day. Okay, Rock Buds, there you go. The Cumberland Plateau Big South Fork River Recreation Area, run by the National Park Service, and the rocks that you find there. Please subscribe if you like this. Thank you so much for watching, and for everyone who subscribed. This is Papa saying, happy rock hunting.